You woke up tired today. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that's already there when you open your eyes. Before the phone, before the notifications, before the day has even asked anything of you. And then you picked up the phone, and within 30 seconds, someone else was winning. Someone launched something. Someone got promoted. Someone posted a life that looked effortless, clean and bright and completely, impossibly together. And you felt it, that quiet collapse in your chest. Not anger, not sadness exactly, something more corrosive than both. Something that whispers, "Why haven't you done that yet? What have you even been doing?" And the exhausting part, the part nobody talks about, is that you already know comparison is a trap. You've heard it 100 times. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone's highlight reel. You've nodded at that. You've shared that. You believe it intellectually. And then you do it again anyway. 10 minutes later, same phone, same hollow feeling. Because here is what nobody tells you. The comparison isn't just a habit. It isn't a character flaw. It is a symptom of something much deeper. A belief that got installed in you long before you were old enough to question it. A belief about what makes a life good, what makes a person enough, what you owe the world, and what the world owes you back. And that belief is quietly burning you out. Not all at once, slowly, day by day, scroll by scroll, comparison by comparison, until one morning you wake up and realize you've been running a race you never actually chose to enter. That morning might be today, because what I'm about to share with you is not another motivational reminder to be grateful. It is a 2,300-year-old philosophical framework from a man who lost everything, absolutely everything, and used that devastation to discover why the human mind compares and exactly how to stop. Stay with me. Around 333 BCE, a young Phoenician merchant named Zeno of Citium boarded a ship loaded with purple dye. He was wealthy, he was respected, he had a future mapped out for him in the language of commerce and status. Then the ship sank. Everything he owned, gone. The cargo, gone. The trajectory of his life, gone. He washed ashore in Athens with almost nothing. And here is where most people's stories would become tragedies. Here is where most men would spend years measuring their ruined life against what it used to be, against what others still had. But Zeno did something unusual. He walked into a bookshop and he started reading. And slowly, across years of study, conversation, and loss-forged clarity, Zeno began to build something. Not wealth, not status, a philosophy. He began teaching in a public walkway called the Stoa Poikile. Picture this. You've been working on something for months, quietly, carefully, pouring yourself into it, in the early mornings before anyone else wakes up. Then, someone you know, not a stranger, someone you actually know, launches something similar, and it immediately gets the attention you've been quietly hoping for. And in the space of 3 seconds, everything shifts. Suddenly your work feels smaller. Suddenly your progress feels invisible. Suddenly you are behind. This is what Zeno called the architecture of a false passion. He said, every destructive emotion follows a logical structure. It isn't chaos. It isn't random. It is reasoning. Just wrong reasoning. The structure goes like this. Step 1. They have something I don't. Step 2. That something is genuinely good. Step 3. Because they have it and I don't, I am less. 3 steps. And Zeno identified an error in every single one. The first error. You don't see the cost. You don't see the debt. You don't see the 3 failed attempts before this one. You don't see the relationship that cracked under the pressure. You see the outcome. You compare your inner reality to their outer appearance, and you call that a fair comparison. The second error. This is where Zeno gets radical. He drew the most important distinction in all of Stoic philosophy, the difference between what is truly good and what is merely preferred. Truly good meant one thing, virtue. the quality of your character, the wisdom in your choices, the courage you bring to difficulty, the justice in how you treat people. Everything else, wealth, applause, status, recognition, these are what Zeno called preferred indifference, not worthless, not to be rejected, but not capable of making you more or less of a human being. And the third error, that their having it makes you less. Your character, your reasoning, your integrity, none of these shrink because someone else gained something. The only thing that shrinks is your attention to them. And attention, unlike virtue, is something you control. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has no obvious source. You haven't run a marathon. You haven't worked an 18-hour day. You've just lived a regular week. Meetings, emails, scrolling, more scrolling. And on Friday night, you sit down and you feel hollowed out. Not from effort, from something else entirely. This is comparison burnout. Zeno called it living according to external standards. Living as if external things determine your worth. Every morning, consciously or not, you check your position. Where am I relative to them? Where am I relative to where I should be? Where am I relative to who I thought I'd be by now? And the answer is almost always insufficient. Not because you haven't achieved things, but because the standard keeps moving. It moves because it isn't yours. Think about a treadmill. Nobody tells you when it happens. There's no moment of choice, no door you walk through, no agreement you sign. It just slowly becomes the case that you no longer have your own definition of what enough looks like. And so you borrow one, from culture, from your feed, from the ambient noise of what people your age are supposed to have achieved. Zeno called it the corruption of the ruling faculty. The ruling faculty is the part of your mind that makes judgments, that decides what is good, that sets the direction for your choices. It is, in essence, your internal compass. And Zeno taught that the primary danger to a human life isn't external hardship, it's the corruption of that compass by external inputs. When you absorb the world's definitions of success without examining them, your compass no longer points toward your true north. It points toward the loudest signal nearby. And here is where comparison and burnout become the same thing. When your standard is external, you can never arrive. Because the standard isn't a destination, it's a social position. So you work to reach a level, and when you reach it, the level has moved. Not because you failed, because the people you were comparing yourself to kept moving too. Zeno says, you must reclaim authorship of your own definition of the good life. Not as an act of arrogance, as an act of responsibility. Because if you don't define what you are living toward, the world will define it for you. And the world's definition is not calibrated to your nature. Ask yourself this: when did you last sit quietly, not with your phone, not with someone else's content, and ask, what does a good day look like by my own reckoning? If you can't answer that quickly, that is a signal. Your compass has been borrowed, and it's time to take it back. Burnout has a clinical definition these days: exhaustion, detachment, a sense of inefficacy. But Zeno would give you a different diagnosis, one that gets to the cause, not just the symptoms. He would say, you are burned out because you have been spending real energy on things that cannot be controlled, in service of goals that aren't yours, measured by standards you never chose. That is a precise formula. And notice, not one part of it is about how hard you've worked. You can work very hard towards something genuinely meaningful and not burn out. You can work moderately hard toward a goal that was handed to you by comparison and social pressure and be completely hollowed out in a month. The difference is not effort. The difference is ownership. Comparison burnout happens precisely when you are investing your energy in the uncontrollable column and calling it productivity. You spend an hour on your phone monitoring what others are doing. Not because it helps you, but because somewhere in your nervous system, you believe that monitoring is the same as managing. It doesn't. It just exhausts you. There is a word in Stoic philosophy that doesn't translate well into English. Kathekon. It is often rendered as appropriate action, or sometimes the fitting thing. But neither of those captures what Zeno meant. He meant the action that belongs to you, given who you are, given what reason tells you is right, given the circumstances in front of you, right now, today, in this specific life. Not the action that someone else took, not the action that someone else's timeline demands, not the action that the algorithm rewards, the action that fits. Think about how rarely we ask that question. We ask, what should I be doing at my age? We ask, what are successful people doing? But we rarely ask, what is the right action for me, given my actual nature, my actual values, my actual circumstances, today? Zeno believed that human beings have a nature, a specific individual nature, and that living well means living in accordance with it, not in accordance with the general trend, not in accordance with your demographic cohort, not in accordance with what your feed tells you is admirable, in accordance with your nature. When you compare yourself to someone else and feel the familiar hollow ache, you are not actually measuring your progress. You are measuring your deviation from someone else's kathekon, their fitting path, their appropriate action, their nature and their circumstances. And the reason it feels bad is not because you are behind. It's because you are trying to fit yourself into a shape that was never designed for you. A square peg, a round hole, and you keep hammering and wondering why it hurts. There is another Stoic concept that almost no one talks about outside of academic philosophy. Zeno called it oikeiosis. It comes from the Greek word for home, oikos, and it means something like the process of belonging to oneself. In a healthy animal, this is seamless. The animal doesn't compare itself to other animals and feel inadequate. It simply is what it is, fully, without apology, without monitoring the judgment of others. In human beings, Zeno said, this process can go wrong. We are rational creatures, which means we can reason our way away from ourselves. We can absorb other people's definitions of the good. We can adopt other people's timelines. We can lose the thread back to our own nature so completely that we live for years, sometimes decades, in a kind of internal exile, living in the home of other people's expectations, never quite in your own. Oikeiosis is the practice of returning. It happens in moments when you pause, before you pick up the phone, and ask, do I actually want to do this? It happens when you finish a piece of work, and instead of immediately checking how others are responding, you ask yourself first, do I think this was good? Did I do this with care? Was I honest here? Those are the questions of someone who has returned to their own house. Here is something nobody admits in public. When you make a choice, there is often a small audience in your head, people who are watching, judging, measuring what you are doing against some invisible standard of impressiveness. Maybe it's a specific person, a parent, a colleague, a rival. Maybe it's more diffuse, a general audience, a sense of what people would think. But they're there, watching. Zeno had a name for this tendency. He called it living under the tyranny of opinion, and he was direct. This is a form of self-abandonment. When you make someone else the standard, you have effectively handed them the steering wheel of your life, and they don't know where you're going. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know what you're built for. Here is the Stoic practice for this. Zeno taught his students to ask, what would a wise person do here? Not, what would an impressive person do? Not, what would a successful person do? What would a wise person do? Wisdom, for Zeno, was not cleverness. It was alignment. Alignment between your understanding of what is good and how you actually live. A wise person doesn't perform their life. they live it. When the imagined audience stops running the show, the exhaustion of performing your life dissolves, and what's left is the quiet energy of someone who is actually fully home. Remember how Zeno's story begins. Shipwreck, total loss. Everything he had built his identity around, gone. And years later, Zeno said, "I made a prosperous voyage when I was shipwrecked. Not, I recovered from the shipwreck. Not, I learned something from the shipwreck. I made a prosperous voyage when I was shipwrecked." The catastrophe was the gift, because the loss stripped away the external scaffolding he had been using to understand his own worth. Without the cargo, he couldn't measure himself against other merchants. Without the wealth, he couldn't compare his standing. He had to find another way to measure, or stop measuring entirely. And in that forced reconstruction, he found something the comparison game had been hiding from him. He found his own thinking, his own reasoning, his own capacity for philosophy. The exhaustion you feel right now, the hollow tiredness after another day of comparing and measuring and not quite arriving, that exhaustion is information. It is telling you something. It is telling you that the standard you're using is wrong for you, that the race you're running was never designed for your particular legs. Your burnout might be your shipwreck, not a sign that you failed, a sign that you've been navigating by the wrong stars. Zeno didn't build his philosophy despite the wreck. He built it because of it. Because the wreck forced the question he had been too comfortable to ask. What is actually good? Not what do others have? Not what should I have by now? What is actually, genuinely, philosophically good for a human being? Philosophy without practice is just beautiful furniture in an empty house. Zeno was explicit about this. He didn't just lecture, he assigned exercises. So let's talk about what this actually looks like, not as abstract advice, but as a concrete daily architecture. The first practice Zeno would prescribe is the morning examination. Before you open the phone, before the day installs its standard on you, you ask one question. What is the virtuous aim for today? Not what do I need to achieve? Not how much ground do I need to cover? What is the virtuous aim? Will I be patient today? Will I be honest today? Will I be genuinely present in the conversations I have? When your aim for the day is character-based rather than outcome-based, comparison loses most of its fuel. The second practice is the comparative interruption. When you notice comparison arising, instead of fighting it or suppressing it, you interrogate it. Ask, is what they have actually good in the deep sense, or is it merely preferred? Ask, does their having it diminish my capacity for virtue? Does it reduce my ability to be wise, just, courageous? The honest answer, almost every time, is no. And with that honest answer, the comparison deflates. Not because you've suppressed it, but because you've seen through it. The third practice is the evening review. Before you sleep, ask, where did I live by my own standard today? Where did I abandon it for someone else's? Not as self-punishment, as calibration. The Stoics called this prosoche, self-attention. And over time, practiced daily, imperfectly, persistently, it recalibrates your compass. Not dramatically, quietly, until one morning you wake up and pick up the phone and see someone else's success and feel nothing much. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you've come home to yourself, and your home cannot be threatened by what other people own. Zeno lost a ship and found a philosophy. You don't have to lose anything, you just have to ask the question he asked, standing on that shore with nothing. What is actually good? And then live toward that answer. Starting now. If this video reached something in you, subscribe. Because every week on this channel, we go deeper into the philosophy that actually changes how you live. Not motivation, not inspiration, philosophy. I will see you in the next one.